Welcome everybody to the next episode of Irish Iron. So for anyone listening or watching, I've basically decided to just do one a week, simply just to let people kind of just digest it a little bit easier, and just to get some quality guests on as well. And today's guest is one of exceptional quality. It's Mark Getty, the Irish Hulk. Mark, how are you doing?
Not too bad, Owen. How's things with yourself?
I can't complain. It's a lovely day outside. I have a roof over my head, and even though the lockdown is going on, we're able to see people now within our radius. You know, there's an end zone in sight, but you know, what I'm interested is on your part as a business owner. Like, I know you own a gym. How have you been doing with all this? Like, have you been using it as a time to, you know, upgrade the gym, or how's it been going?
Yeah, well, I think when we got the news up north on the Friday, going back now about 9 weeks, initially you kind of just sat back and you had a wee look at yourself, and you kind of had a shit attack, to be honest with you, at the start, because obviously, you know, not only is it your passion to train, but it's also the source of income that you sort of provide for your family. So to be told that as of now, you have no more business until the foreseeable future, you know, you kind of had a few wee sore moments and a few wee questions to be asked. So I think over the weekend, we kind of gathered our own thoughts and, so to speak, put a plan in action, you know, because at that point, Owen, nobody knew how long it was going to go, any of the help that we were going to get. So we were kind of in the dark, you know, and being like a husband and a father, you know, the first priority is obviously how do you put a roof and, you know, feed your family. Do you know what I mean? So initially at the start, it's like anything. You sort of take the negatives and you dwell on them for a wee while, and then you kind of start trying to see the positives in it. You start looking at it going, right, listen, this shit's real, it's happening. So you can either bitch and whine like a wee dick about it, or you can get on with it and, you know, make the best of a bad situation. So I think that's kind of what we did going forward. We kind of spoke to a few things, we put a few plans in action. And to be honest with you, Owen, I would like to say, you know, fair play to all the members, or most of the members in Elite, because a lot of them stuck by us. You know, a lot of them didn't cancel their memberships. A lot of them offered to pay, you know, memberships going forward by cash just to keep it going. And to be fair, we probably wouldn't be in the position we are today without them. So it was surreal, to be honest with you, and it nearly brought a tear to my eye to see that, you know, all the good work that you'd done over the last 5 years was that much appreciated, you know. So I think with their help, and to be honest with you, completely their help, we set aside saying, well, look, it's closed. Let's take this time to revamp, get a few new pieces of equipment in, get the gym painted, you know, fix all the stuff up that really you didn't have a chance to do when the gym was open. So we've basically I'm actually in the gym now, so I'm doing a wee bit of work, you know. So this last 8 weeks on, we kind of seen what we needed. So we took a few bits of equipment down, revamped a wee bit, got 4 or 5 new machines that members were asking for, new plates, new bars, painted things, new lights. So basically for everybody coming back, it's kind of our wee way of saying thanks for staying with us and thanks for being loyal, you know. So, you know, I'm the sort of person there, Owen, that, you know, there's always going to be bad situations and hurdles in your life, whether it be bodybuilding, whether it be business, whether it be personal. But once you sit back and you have your initial flutters about it, you know, dwelling on the negative is never going to get you past it. You know what I mean? You have to then start looking at the bigger picture and look for a way forward. And I think, you know, over the years, that's what I've sort of kind of trained my mind to do. And as a result, you know, it kind of worked for me in this instance too. So like yourself, I'm just waking up every day, enjoying the good weather, enjoying spending more time with my family, you know, that I wouldn't have had before this. I'm trying to look at the positives. Yeah. I'm trying to look back going, you know, when this is all over, at least I can say that these 8 to 10 weeks or whatever length of time it's going to be, I haven't wasted it. I've spent every day more with my kids, which I've appreciated a newfound love for, and basically getting the gym ready for people opening. So to be honest with you, I could sit and complain and yap about the situation, but I'm choosing to look at the positive, and I'm choosing to look at it from a brighter light, in the sense of it's enabled me to get things done that I wouldn't have otherwise, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like, the only thing I would have said for people in preps, you know, I mean, like having their shows pulled out like months, well, not even like at a short distance, but weeks. Just stuff like that. I think like that will play into your mind, but At
Massive.
the end of the day, I mean, everything's just being pushed forward. I mean, even the big shows are being pushed. Um,
Yeah.
like but everyone's in the same situation. It's not as if, you know, there's some conspiracy with the IFBB
No.
or NABBA or what have you. It's all just, it is what it is. But they're talking bodybuilding, and you are still going strong at it. But when did you start? Like, did you come from a sporting background, or is there any what got you into it? Like,
I
starting off.
played I I played football and I boxed a wee bit when I was younger, so it was always fairly sporty, you know. I always liked being out. I always liked being outdoors. I always liked keeping active, you know. So I actually was in the middle of a boxing sort of a career, a short one, albeit, you know. And I hurt my hand one day at like a work experience thing, you know, when I was back about 16 or 17. And I
Yeah,
got pulled out of that year's Ulster Championships. So the coach basically said to me, Mark, get up to the gym, do a bit of training, and just basically in a nutshell, come back and said to me, stop, don't come back as a fat fuck. That was about it in a nutshell, you know. So went into the gym, trained. A few magazines sitting there, and at the time the Mr. Olympia was Dorian Yates, so one of the covers was Dorian Yates and Flex Wheeler and all these guys. Started looking at them and thinking, Jesus, wow, never seen anything like it. Thought, didn't know, you know, kind of looked at it and thought, that there's it's Photoshop. I didn't say Photoshop, but at that stage I was looking at it going, that's surreal. That's you
yeah,
know, a movie. You know? So started training, done everything wrong on, made all the same mistakes. I remember bulking up, or I should have said fattening up, and then I decided to do my first diet, and I basically dieted down to exactly the same as what it was before. No difference, no nothing, you know, because at that stage we had no real sort of you know, direction. I'm from a small town that basically football, boxing, hurling, soccer, things like that. So there's no such thing as bodybuilding, you know. So you were doing it all yourself, and, you know, spending 3 hours in the gym, training every body part every day of the week, you know. And I remember a short time later when my mother died, my cousin kind of took me under his wing, brought me to a gym in Ballymoney, and done a few sessions. I remember the first session we did was chest. Now, this is going back 25 years, so it's still vivid in my mind because it's where I started. And I remember we done chest and trays, and I kind of looked at him 45 minutes, and I looked at him after and goes, is that it? What about back? What about legs? What about everything else? He goes, Mark, there's fucking 6 other days of the week. Would you calm down and just train one body part every other day and take it like that? So for a while, this was in my head going, that just doesn't sound right. You know, surely I should be doing more and things like that. But obviously I stuck with it, listened to the advice, moved up to Belfast to go to university, fell in with another guy that I would basically give a lot of credit for. This was the biggest, most conditioned fella I had ever seen, a fella called the late, great Graham Mcconkey. You know, God rest his soul. Probably the most inspiring guy I had ever seen in my life. This guy was just larger than life, massive, conditioned, you know, just everything at that stage that you epitomized a bodybuilder to be. And I remember just looking across the gym and awe at him. It was his gym. And I remember plucking up the crowds to go over to him. And underneath this big, massive demeanor was a gentle giant, an absolute gentleman. And probably to me, one of the most inspirational and most underrated or underappreciated men in the north and south of Ireland. And I would say that to anybody. This guy had all the potential in the world to go wherever he wanted in bodybuilding. And he was so shy. You know, that's the funny thing is he was so shy, even though he had a physique that made people literally, you know, go look at and go, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing that, well, put like the only pro that I seen on stage after that, I wasn't disappointed, but Graham was that big that it
yeah,
didn't blow your mind. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He was sitting at 18 or 19 stone ripped, and I remember talking to him the first time, and he basically helped me out, and he was sending me text messages, he coming down to the gym, helping me train, things like that there. He got me completely into the sport in such a way that I'll never forget.
Yeah,
And I
how old were
remember,
you? How old were you, Mark, when you got into it? Like, did you start as a junior, or did you get into it a little bit later? Were you in your 20s at that point?
yeah, I started training when I was 16, met him about 18, 19, but I'd done my first show when I was 22.
Okay.
So I did, you know, and
Yeah.
basically done the first show in the Ulster Hall, won the first timers, and went from there, you know. Won the intermediates the following year, thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, went over to the Britons, got my ass handed to me and realised, fuck, there's some monsters out there. So,
Yeah.
you know, kind of got my wings clipped a wee bit and then thought, right, I have to come back from this. But the good thing back then, Owen, and one of the things that I so miss about bodybuilding was the camaraderie back then was unbelievable. The guys around you were just real big-hearted, big fellas that would have done anything for you. There was no bullshit. There was no bitching. There was no yapping. Anything they had to say to you, they would have said straight to your face. Like, I mentioned in the gym more times than enough, and they called, you're not good enough to stand on stage. You're a bit fat for 6 weeks out. The guys weren't criticizing. They were criticizing you, but it was constructive. They were telling the truth. And I think that's one of the things that I see that's lacking in today's bodybuilding scene. You know, a lot of guys they're unwilling to take constructive criticism, and as a result, the coaches are unwilling to give it. And it's a two-way street. I'm a big believer.
Like, do you think it's a social media thing? I mean, like, when I got started into the bodybuilding, it definitely was, like, I didn't have a phone up until I was, I was well into the training. But do you think it's more of a case of everybody has a voice now? So, I mean, criticism is coming at you from every corner, but some people can't take the criticism anyway. So when they get that, it's gonna play with their head. But I think it's just a case of people are getting swayed from one person to the next person to the next person, and egos as well have been inflated with followers and that.
Like I remember Owen back in the day. You know, I'm a big, massive believer in a phrase called earning your stripes. So what that meant was, when I was getting through the ranks, I said nothing because I didn't have the right to say nothing. I was looking at these guys and the misters and further afield, and them's the guys that could say something. So I was looking up to them, and if they even looked at me and said, you need to do more cardio, I'd have jumped on the machine and done more cardio. If they'd have said you needed more chest, I'd have said, how do you get more chest? You know, you had that respect, you had that level, and you wanted to be up there. So literally you would have cleaned their shoes and washed their balls to get there. You'd have done whatever it took. And at the end of the day, you had that respect for them. Looking back, like, I can name you every guy that helped me in my journey, and every guy now, I would still hold them in that same respect, for the simple reason being, I wouldn't be here without them today. And I know that for a fact, you know, because every one of them had their own part to play in my journey. And I think that's one of the big things that's missing now. It's like you said, I kind of went to one person, and whatever they said, I listened to. Because if I went to that person, that meant that I knew that was the guy I wanted to help me. So no matter what anybody else would have said to me, I wouldn't have listened. But the thing back in the day, Owen, is people wouldn't have just offered information. They would have kept their mouths shut and let you get on with it your way until you had asked, you know. And then they would say what their way was. Do you know what I mean? So it was asking got you whatever. And when you asked, they told you the truth. But to me, you've picked the one person, one coach, one training partner, whatever it is, stick to that, do what he says. And if it doesn't work, rather than blaming the fucking person that helped you, look at yourself. Did you actually diet right? Did you actually train hard? Did you do enough cardio? Did you do the things that you're saying you did? And 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, you didn't. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the big thing lacking in today. I see everybody blaming everybody else. And see, at the end of the day, it's your fucking show. So if something goes wrong, you need to own it. You need to take responsibility for it. You need to find out what it was, and you need to fix it. And that's the bottom line to it. And I think back in the day, that was done by every bodybuilder. And I think that's why the standard was so high, both in the north and both in the south, because people, they owned their shit. They get on with it, and they came back better every year. No excuses. Every year I've seen physiques from the south and north of Ireland and went, wow, he's been working. And, you know, not to be knocking bodybuilding today, and I'm not trying to knock it because there's some guys out there that are good, but I don't see that wow factor as much as what I did back in the day. You know, I don't see it, and I don't see it from year to year. Like, I could name you 5 or 6 guys now back in the day that every year I seen them compete, it was like, Jesus, he's been working. Now I'm going, similar, didn't impress me, you know. That's not to say their physiques aren't good, but they're not bringing something that makes you go, holy fuck, do you know what I mean? And that there's kind of bodybuilding. You want to walk into a stage. I want to go to a Northern Ireland show or a Southern Ireland show, and I want to be blown off my seat by some guy that's got mass, aesthetics, condition. He just walks on the stage and boom, it's over. Do you know what I mean? And you want to be going, whoa, what happened there? Do you know what I mean? I haven't seen that in years. Do you know what I mean? And I think maybe it's because the era I was born into, and again, this is me being, you know, it's me being honest, and I suppose in a wee way I'm biased, but I think the era I was born into, both the north and the south, we had some crop of bodybuilders. We had guys that turned pro by winning Worlds and Universe, you know, never been done before and hasn't been done after. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the big thing. Once you've seen that,
it's just phenomenal. No, because I remember the guys that I would get information off and would be, like, I'd feel more familiar with the generations that came before myself, just due to that fact, because the standard was that much high. I mean, you had guys like Billy Byrne, Tommy, Dave Fox, and then like those would be the guys that stick out to me anyway, and yourself. But do you think it's just a case of, like, back then there was only 2 feds? Do you think that was maybe why the standard was so high? I mean, it was just
Maybe,
NABBA
but do you know?
and the other one. So,
Do you know what I noticed? Do you know what I noticed as well, Owen? I noticed as well, yes, there's more federations now, but them bodybuilders, if you look back at even the federations that were there, you know, the guys nowadays, if you look at it, the best guys and all them federations, I don't think the majority of them would hold a candle to the guys you've just mentioned.
yeah.
And I think a lot of it's to do with the fact that everybody trained the same way. Everybody trained hard. There was no varying off it. There was nobody saying, oh, but look, this guy here's training with high volume, 90 million reps, and this guy's doing his chest 6 times a week, and this guy's doing this, and this guy's diet's intermittent fasting. And I think nowadays people have tried to make it easier. And as a result, they missed the hardcore element of it. Like back in the day, I remember I got my first diet, and it was oats, eggs in the morning, 5 or 6 meals of chicken, rice, and broccoli, and the last meal was a steak. That was it. There was no fucking about it. There was no, you know, sugar-free sauces. There was no friggin', you know, sugar-free drinks. It was just water, and that's your meals. And that was it. And, you know, training was simple. Chest, day one, chest and tries, heavy, hard until you couldn't move. Back on its own, legs on its own, and shoulders and biceps. And that was it. 4 days a week. Heavy, hard, to failure, busting yourself 4 days a week, eating loads of good quality food. Getting big on the off season. This is the thing I say. You know, abs in the off season, never had them, never heard of them, never needed them. What was the off season for? Growing, getting big, getting massive, getting strong, and that was what it was. And as a result, all them guys that you mentioned, all them guys done the same thing. They got massive in the. If you run into the gym on the off season in Dublin or Belfast or anywhere, they're these big 260+ pound monsters. You know what I mean? Not an ab in sight, but by fuck could they shift weight? Do you know what I mean? And then come show day, they were all shredded, you know, and I think that's been lost. I think people are now saying, oh, you can get bigger staying lean. Bollocks, you can. You know, it's like I say to some of the guys that are bringing these new approaches to me, and I say to them, show me a standard that's higher now, right, than back in the day, and I'll listen to you, and I'll do it. But until you can show me that, nothing beats it. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I think it breaks down to. There was no secret weapons back in the day. You know, gear was the same, training was the same, you know, eating or supplements were the same. You know, the diet was the same. People just worked hard. You know, they knew what they had to do, and they just done it. You know.
Yeah, but as well, I think back then there was no, you weren't getting looked at all the time. I think a few people, like I don't think I couldn't care less about putting on a bit of weight. I love being heavy. I love being able to push the weight. But certain people definitely would feel they need to be in shape all the time. So it's not really. It's a weird one. I find it depends what you want to do. Do you want to be a good steak? Do you want to be highly competitive, or do you want to do something else? But I think if you want to win shows, you have to get into that uncomfortable position of the off season. So, but that being said, that ties into a question I'd say from James. Anyway, James asked was, when you trained with Brian McAreevy, I think it's Brian McAreevy.
Brian McAreevy.
Yeah, is that what pushed you? Do you think that was your next step up in your physical development?
Massively. If I was saying Graham was responsible for me falling into bodybuilding, Brian would have been responsible for me taking it to the next level. I remember it was 2009, and me and Brian were competing in the NABBA NA. And everybody was building it up to be, this is a show between you and him. Both of us class one. So whoever won the class was technically going to win the overall, right? Yeah. So I get backstage, I seen him backstage, and I went, fuck, that's it over. You know, he just looked that good. So I knew right away, I'm beat here. So I went on stage, and we pushed each other about the stage, and we elbowed each other, and we nearly fell. We nearly ended up in a fist fight, and we had to be separated, you know? Yeah. And anyway, he won the show, went on and won the overall. And I had decided by the time I get beat in the day show to the overall, right, I need to know what he's doing. I need to know why he's beating me now twice. And I need to know what he's doing. So I just decided I'll go over to him here, I'll shake his hand, and I'll say, right, listen, I need you in my corner. And that's technically the way it happened. You know, I went over to him, I said, congratulations. And I said, listen, if you've got a few minutes at some stage, I wouldn't mind picking your brain because I know you're not competing in the Northern Ireland next year. Would you help me do it? And that's kind of where it came from. He said to me, look, I train on the days that he trained, you make it down. And that's what I did. At the time, I was living in Newton Abbey and we trained in Newry. So it was basically an hour's drive for me. And I made that journey 4 times a week with him, right? Down to his house. And then we went to the gym and I trained with him. And we just literally killed each other. That was the only way it was. It was like 2 gorillas trying to kill each other. And, you know, I came back in 2010, won my class, and narrowly missed out in the overall to Andy McBride, which was completely justified. You know, Andy beat me fair and square. And I was well happy for him and decided, right, next year, I have 2 class wins at the Northern Ireland. Next year, I need to have the overall. And that's technically what we set about doing it. A full year's prep. I got as big as I could. I got as strong as I ever was. And I come into the Northern Ireland that year to think 18 stone something and took the overall. And then obviously the rest is history. But yes, definitely that was the defining moment. Like I would say in my whole prep, when I was competitive up to say 2014, when I sort of walked away from it slightly, the competitive side of things, because I opened my own gym, I had him in my corner as a training partner. And that was definitely how and where it all happened for me. There's no doubt.
Deadly.
He brought out the best in me. He pushed me. And he was honest one, and that's the big thing. You could have been down to Brian 6 weeks out, and if he thought you were fat, he told you were fat. But every week you went down, you aimed to be better. And you knew in the back of your head that he was the one genuine fella that actually wanted you to win. So therefore, he was doing this for your best, you know. And he motivated and he brought out the best in me per session, because let's face it, I didn't want to be down there wasting his time. You know, and I didn't want to be wasting my own time, you know what I mean? So to me, it was 100%. And, you know, it's true what they say, you get in what you put out. And for them 5 years, 6 years, when I was competing at the highest level, that's what I put in. And as a result, I got back what I needed, you know. But like what you said, Owen, back then, all it was to do was winning for me. So I didn't care how I looked in the off-season. For me, it was improving in the off-season so that I went on and wowed them judges. I remember a quote from Dwayne Yates one time, and he said, I don't want to have the prettiest physique on the stage. I want to walk on that stage, the judges drop their pencil and go, holy fuck. And that always resonated with me. And the way I looked at it was every year I came back to that stage, I wanted to bring something that people were going, wow. Do you know what I mean? And that's why in the off-season, I didn't give a shit. I walked around the off-season 300 pounds plus every year. And, you know, I wasn't pretty to look at. But come competition time, I was in shape and I was ready to rock, you know?
Yeah. That being said, like you did the universe and you won your class. You won. Tell us about the your international experiences, because I know you've done very well on the NABBA universe scene and everything like that. But what was your first exposure to the? Because I mean, my own exposure to international bodybuilding was like 3 steps above whatever I've seen in this country. Anyway, I mean, it was something else. But I know back then the standard was higher again. But even now it's still high. Crazy. Yeah. But what was it like for yourself stepping abroad? So, yeah.
Well, I think the first time I went over was the Brits in 2010, and that was a failure. That was when I got beat by Andy in the overall. I went over to the Brits, and I think I got 4th or 5th. And that was my eye-opener. So it was. So the way I looked at it was, I thought to myself, I'm not going back to this show until I can win the thing, you know?
Yeah.
So fast forward a year to the Northern Ireland, we went over and we won the Brits, and then we won the Europeans. And then I got married and had a child. So then that put a snap in the universe that year. So I think to date, I've placed in the Britons 3 or 4 times, firsts and seconds and 1/3 or 4th. I've done the Worlds twice. And 2013, I went to the universe and placed 4th. And that was probably the bitterest one to swallow, Owen. You know, I'm not one to kind of bitch and yap about placings, but that one I fairly thought that I was either 1st or 2nd, you know. And even looking back today, it's the one that I kind of go, oh, do you know what I mean? But, you know, the universe, getting beaten in the universe was probably the best thing and the worst thing that ever happened to me, because I came back to the gym on the Monday after getting beat, and I was yapping as I do to Brian, and I was saying this is that and this and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, man, that's dead on, right? You should have won. Good, brilliant. But you didn't. You fucking didn't. That's the way it is. So going forward here, you get your head in the game and do the Worlds, or you just bitch and whine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'll just leave. But so we regrouped on the Worlds. I texted one of the judges and said to him, listen, I need a bit of feedback just to see where we're at. And he basically said, listen, I'm being nitpicky. Read this big fucking text message to me about a page long and said, work in these areas. So we did. And the Worlds was in Northern Ireland, 2014. 28 people in class 1 to 1. 28. I went in going, Jesus, here we go again. Every year I turn up to do this, there's numbers, stupid. So we went that day, and all I wanted to do was win the class. So the aim of the day was class 1 winner, and I'd be happy. So by the end of pre-judging, we thought we had that in the bag. So we got the class. We then stepped onto the overall stage. We won it. And then one of the guys goes, listen, why don't you jump into the pro class? You're allowed to do it here. You may as well. So I thought, fuck, I've nothing else to do. I'll jump in and see. And lo and behold, we won it too. So as it started in 2014, I was the first man ever in history to win the amateur overall worlds and the pro worlds in the first night. And I think the only other man to do it at that stage was a guy, Salvatore, in the Universe. Now, I could be wrong. And back in 2007, he won the Universe, the amateur, and then the overall. So if you count people that won an amateur and a pro in the one night, I was technically the second man ever, or the first to do the Worlds, you know. So that was probably the crown and glory of my career, you know. And, you know, I'll say that I still, as the other day, I just put it on to watch it, you know, and I still get wee nostalgic moments of going, Jesus, that was me up there, you know. And I can say that that was definitely the one now, bar the NABBA Northern Ireland, which was the one that I always wanted. The Worlds was definitely the one that after that I knew I could retire a happy man, you know.
Yeah.
So it was. So internationally, we've done well. The only one show that I really, really wanted and that I'm still kind of look at is the Universe, you know. But I'm 41 now. I have other priorities, if you know what I mean. And it's just trying to see if we can get another year. Because as you know yourself, the standard is that bit higher. And if you really want a pro universe at that, you need to be giving it 110%. And I think over the last couple of years, I've thought I could and thought I would, but I couldn't, you know, just too much other things going on with the business and the family that you were always holding something back. And then when it got to the stage, you always seen that, you know. So it's a bit disappointing, but I think once you kind of step back and look at yourself for what it is and admit your own shortcomings or your own responsibilities, you can kind of go, right, well, did I put 100% and did I really do what I needed to do to win? And the answer was no. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, do you find, I mean, have the only injury I'm aware of that you had is the tricep detachment. Is that the only injury you've had like throughout the career, or has it been a few?
My first injury was the tricep in 2000. I got my gallbladder removed in 2016, so that put me out.
Okay.
So 2015, we opened up the gym, so that took the year out there. 2016, I got my gallbladder out, so that popped me out that year. 2017, we flew to Italy, won a show there, came back, tore my tricep 4 weeks out from the Universe, so that popped me out there. And then 2018, I had 3 hernias repaired.
Oh, no.
So, so three hernias repaired in the space of 2 months. And since that, you know, we've had nothing, touch wood, major, but you've still got the issues that the hernias have left, you know, with the mesh in, that the stomach's not quite as tight or quite as aesthetic looking as what it was. And then obviously the tricep aesthetically looks okay, but there's definitely a loss of power in it. So you can't do the things that you used to be able to do training wise. And you're always aware of it in your head and afraid of it, so to speak. And I think that's something that I was never able to get over, you know?
Yeah, I mean, as a bigger person, I mean, because you're well above 6 foot, do you find like to hold on to the muscle or to even improve, your body needs to be at 100%. Like you can't get away with, because I was even just thinking to myself, it's just a case of like if you have a smaller bodybuilder, they're not like, I mean, you're gonna get the rare few who do push good amounts of weight, but I've always found it's always been a case of when a bigger bodybuilder gets injured, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it can completely change everything. So
it definitely does. It definitely 100% does. Like I would carry roughly about 19 odd stone on the stage, you know. And like you say, whenever you get the way I've always trained has been hard and heavy. So for not to be able to do that, it's hard to kind of reevaluate. And no matter how much reading I do on other training programs, they just don't appeal to me like the way I used to train. Now maybe that's a reflection on me as a person not being able to adapt, or you could say that, you know, that's what got me there. Do you know what I mean? I remember being like I said, Dorian Yates was one of the guys I grew up idolizing, and when he tore the tricep, he called it a day.
Yeah.
For the simple reason being, he said that he couldn't train the way he wanted to train, and if he couldn't do that, then he didn't want to walk on an Olympia stage half-assed. And I kind of understand what he means by that now, because I've competed after the tricep, but I haven't been where I wanted to be, you know. Now, whether that's a reflection of my head or whether that's the way it is, you know, I can definitely relate to what he said. And looking back on it now, for me personally, once that happened or even before it, I potentially should have called it a day. But there was just always that wee niggle in my head that always wanted me to come back. And unfortunately for me, a couple of times I've answered the call and I've been disappointed the way I've turned out, you know. So it's just one of them things. I know a lot of guys, like you say, can adapt and get over it. But unfortunately for me, it was something that kind of sidelined me for 2 years. And then trying to get back to where you were and even progress further, I just don't think it was there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, to put on the muscle you had, did you find it was did it take a little bit longer to fill out your frame, or were you able to put on weight, you know, fairly easy? I mean, how did you
No,
get about
at
it?
the start, Owen, I was getting beat by the smaller guys, you know, because they were
Yeah.
filled out well before me. So, like, you know, I was getting beat by guys that at that stage were brilliant bodybuilders, you know, but they were competing in around 12, 13 stone. I was competing at that stage in around 15, 16, you know.
Yeah.
But I think from about 2008 on, I started averaging about 7 to 10 pound a year. And although in the first few years I was still getting beat, that eventually would lead me to beat the guys that were beating me, because once I filled everything out, I was standing on stage shredded at my heaviest at about 270 pounds, you know.
Yeah.
And whenever I was like that, the guys beside me, albeit good, and I've heard this from other competitors, they just said he was just too big. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of got to the point at 6 foot where I had filled my frame out that much that in reality, most people were saying you've no more room to put it on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I think to be fair, you know, there's a couple of guys had a few good points. They said back in the Northern Ireland, whenever you were on stage, you looked aesthetic, you looked big, you looked tight. And a couple of years after that, you know, you can start seeing areas blowing out that maybe you don't want to blow out, you know. My waist maybe got a bit bigger, my ass got a bit bigger, you know, and, you know, that aesthetic maybe started to shift into possibly the bigger realms where you didn't want, you know. So possibly if I had went much further, the trade-off for me would have been the bigger waist, etc., which, you know, as a bodybuilder, you don't want.
No.
So I would say frame-wise, 260, 270 is probably the max that I was holding, and good condition, and also to have that sort of nice look about it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, do you think now, like the question I always have in my mind is, like up in the Northern Ireland scene, the UK BFF used to play a big part, didn't it? So it was like a feeder to the Brits and that over in the mainland. But did you just stick with NABBA, or did you like try your feet with both at some point?
Never, believe it or not, for me, whenever I was kind of up there, the big show was NABBA.
Yeah.
So the guys that I went and seen were all NABBA bodybuilders, you know.
Yeah.
Across the year, all the guys that I was looking at every year, we went to the Park Avenue. That was the NABBA show. Also the guest posers with Alexi Guy Lister, Eddie Elwood, Stefan Mueller, Hassan Al-Saka. You know, all the guys were NABBA bodybuilders. So for me, NABBA was always kind of the show that I always wanted to do. And I got to a point where people, back in 2011, there were guys going to me, listen, you need to go IFBB, you need to go and get your pro card, you need to do this, you need to do that. But you see, to be honest with you, it never really appealed to me. And the reason being was at that stage, I had it in my head that every show I wanted to do was to win. And back in 2011, the Mr. Olympia was Jay Cutler, Phil Heath. And that's, if I had went to IFBB, that's where I would have wanted to be. And let's face facts. Were you ever going to beat Phil Heath or Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was my whole way of looking at it. My way of looking at it is, number one, I have to compete in America. I just got married. I just had a young baby.
Yeah.
And, you know, things were happening over here for me. So that was going to be out the window as well, because you're going to have to pay to go and compete in America where you weren't making money bodybuilding. It was just a hobby. And then I had to be true to myself and go, could I make it where I wanted to be? Like for me personally, I wanted to be at the top of the sport, you know. In NABBA, I was at the top of the sport. In the IFBB, could I have made it in the Olympia stage? No. So for me, you know, I didn't want to be doing shows to place outside the top 15 and just have 30 seconds on stage. So for that reason, it never appealed to me, you know. I always liked watching the Olympia and watching all the big freaks coming out and going, wow, do you know what I mean? And for me, the Olympia is that class. You know, you have to be structurally fantastic. You have to be, you know, there's that many, you just have to be in the genetic elite.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had no problem admitting to myself that I wasn't at that level. Do you know what I mean? I was content where I was at. I loved competing with NABBA. I loved the NABBA camaraderie. I loved the NABBA family. I loved the guys I was competing with. And I was just always happy competing. I was always, you know, anytime I went to the Brits, I was happy competing. Anytime I went to the Worlds, I was happy. You know, I never won them shows easy enough to go, right, I could be an IFBB pro. Do you know what I mean? If, on the other hand, when I was winning 10 universes in a row, then I could go, right, I need the next level. But I was always up against it in them shows. So I knew there was good enough competition for me in NABBA. I enjoyed myself in NABBA. So I was never wanting to leave NABBA, you know. I was always happy with them. I was always happy with the way the federation ran. I loved the organisers. And you know, bodybuilding made me happy. And I just stayed where I was at, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I mean, I always tell people this. It's like, you can, like, that's where weight, the IFBB at that level is where weight doesn't really play as big a part. It's all about everything together. So it's like just the genetic structure and the muscle bellies. And then when you get guys who are actually heavy, they're the big Rammies, the Jay Cutlers, and they're the big open boys. So it's like, but they're far and few in between. But that being said, I mean, how did you get into show promotion? Because you're helping to run you're doing the Irish PCA show. Yeah. So how did that come about?
So I have a couple of friends, one of them being another NABBA pro who I've competed against over the years, Danny Welburn. So Danny and me would be very close friends, you know.
Yeah.
And Danny was one of the first guys. Him, Ryan, and Warren were technically the first three, the three stooges, as I call them, of the PCA, you know. And Danny approached me after speaking to Warren and Ryan, saying, "Listen, I have the guy to do the Irish Open. You know, he's one of the top bodybuilders in the country." Or in the UK, he's won titles, and he's the sort of boy that could promote it, you know. So Danny approached me about it. I said okay, and we just went from there, you know. The first year we held it up in Lisburn, and you know, it was just one of them federations, Owen, that there was a gap for it, because the guys that were running it, Warren, Ryan, Danny, they were all bodybuilders, you know. Some of them not competing anymore, but they all started on a stage. And what swung it for me with the PCA was they were very like NABBA, in the sense of it was all about the athlete, you know, and it was all about the competitor. It was all about the show, and the amount of work these guys done behind the scenes to push it was incredible. So as soon as I was told all the things they were planning to do, and I was like, right, listen, I'll be your man over here, you know, because at the end of the day, the way them boys promoted that show and the way they sold it, it sold out, you know. The competitors wanted to do it because of what it said, and they set the ground very early in terms of the Worlds and the Britons and the things that were open to the competitors, you know, the opportunities it presented, you know. So running it was a no-brainer, to be fair, you know. It ran itself, so to speak. We just had to pick the venue, make sure we had the judges, make sure that we had the music, make sure we had the music right for a change, make sure the lighting was good, etc., and the competitors took care of themselves, you know.
Yeah.
First show we did, we had 80 people, and the second, third, fourth one all had 120 plus, you know, which for Northern Ireland is unheard of. You know, NABBA would sit around 60 to 80 competitors, and we doubled that, you know. And to be fair, every year the standard was fantastic. You know, the one thing that I've noticed in bodybuilding over the last while has been the standard in certain classes. Like, you know, I love open bodybuilding, you know, but I do believe that over the last few years, I can see where the bikini divisions and the men's physique divisions and the classic divisions have all came from, you know. I would argue that I still prefer the open, but I can see the merit in it. I think that's one thing PCA brought to the table that at that stage NABBA was dragging their heels on, you know. They were bringing the divisions in that the IFBB had, and it appealed to a lot more people. So that's where I think we get the competitor numbers out. Like our competitors in the men's physique and the bikini class was 20 plus. And that's where the numbers at. You know, when you see a show with 130, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's all the smaller classes, the bikini, the men's physique, the tone figure that's bringing the numbers, you know. And I think that's why we were kind of done more competitors than NABBA or whoever else. And then obviously after that, NABBA followed suit. So the good thing up here is we put the PCA show in around NABBA. I'm very friendly with Dave Warner, the NABBA rep. So we sort of talk about it together, and we're trying to promote each other's shows. So we're not trying to compete. We're trying to make bodybuilding better. And to me personally, if PCA was back in the day with me, I would have definitely competed on it, because there's no restrictions like the AFBB impose. You know, if you competed in the NABBA, you're not allowed to compete in the UKBFF or the AFBB. PCA and NABBA work in harmony, so why not do both? If you're in shape and the show's a couple of weeks apart, we're advocating, you know, do the NABBA show and do PCA. You know, if you fuck up at NABBA, you maybe do well at PCA, or you have a chance to win both. So that's where I think the two of them work well together. So for me personally, I always loved competing with NABBA. PCA wasn't going to affect that, so I was definitely hooked from day one as soon as I signed up, you know.
Yeah, I think it's great as well in the fact that it seems to be growing every year. I mean, the Southern Ireland show is now here as well. It's placed around our own NABBA. I think it's a week before NABBA down here as well. And then over in the finals, the show itself is phenomenal. Like the production value is crazy. And then of course there's prize money. It's the only you know,
That's
amateur thing that gives a little bit of prize money. And then of course what I found very, very beneficial is the professionals in the PCA. They do all the other ones. They do the Universe, they do the Top de Kalmar, they do all the European you know, the professional shows, bar the IFBB, and they're making money. So it's a case of, it's like they're able to make more money than some IFBB pros. It's just they don't get covered as much.
That's it. And they're not penalised either, Owen. You know, like there's a guy there that competes in that circuit called Peter Molnar, and Peter obviously could hold his own with any IFBB pro that I've seen in the bottom ranks, you know, but he chooses not to, and that's the reason, because he can come and go between the Top de Kalmar, them Italian shows, the Eastern European shows, the PCA, the NABBA. There's no penalties for doing that, you know, and there's no bullshit, there's no politics, there's nothing like that. Like for me personally, the competitors run the show. Without the competitors, you have no show. So, you know, what gives the promoters the right to say you're not allowed to compete in such and such? And I think that might have been another reason back in the day where I didn't do the IFBB, because I was looking at it going, I'll do whatever show I want. Do you know what I mean? And I'll do your show. I'll bring people to your show. I'll do this show. You shouldn't be penalised because you want to do more shows. It should be, you know, it should all be supported. The problem in bodybuilding at the minute is everybody is out for some reason to get everybody, instead of looking at it going, listen, you know, this is a Northern Ireland, this is a Southern Ireland. Let's get across here and let's take out the UK. Let's take out the Europeans. Let's do what we can to promote it. Let's do what we can over here to promote bodybuilding. And whenever I took over the PCA in Northern Ireland, or Ireland, so to speak, at the start, I tried to get all gyms and all supplement companies to sponsor it. And the way I said it to them all was, listen, you're not giving the money to me. You sponsor a class, put your money in a gold envelope and hand it to the winner. And at the start, it worked perfect. So what that did was it gave all the winners of the classes a chance to go to the Britons or go to the Worlds and had a wee bit of money in the pocket, right? And what actually annoyed me on down the line was the lack of support that a lot of gyms and a lot of supplement companies wouldn't give. You know, these gyms and supplement companies are happy to take, you know, people's money for supplements and things like that. But when they're asked to put their hand in their pocket for sponsorship that was going nowhere near me, they refused to do it. And to me, you know, that's where the sad thing lies. You know, everybody supported each other. If everybody supported their athletes, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to make, you know, the athletes, give the athletes that bit of a chance to go over the water and to get a name for themselves and to do something, you know. And it was just very frustrating that a lot of companies and a lot of people were actually not seeing the same thing, you know. They talk a good game, but the problem is when they're asked to put their money where their mouth is, they're not interested, you know. And I put that down to a lot of people not wanting to see people over here succeed. It's a very backward attitude that seems to be prevalent in the fitness industry, where people only want them to get to a certain level, but they don't want to get them before it, you know. And just on the thing of James Gibson, you know, I would be helping James from, you know, competing, and I would help him train. Me and James would be training partners. And I've said to James one day, I've said, James, you know, I'm going to help you beat me, you know. So if me and you decided we're competing in the Universe, I'm going to train with you and I'm going to train you to beat me. So when it comes to the universe, and if me and you are standing 1 and 2, I says, and you beat me, I'd be the first person to shake your hand. Because why would I want somebody from Brazil or Japan or Australia beating me instead of my own mate? And the issue I have is a lot of guys over here don't think like that. A lot of guys over here would rather have the Japanese guy or the Brazilian guy winning so that somebody from the north or south of Ireland doesn't get the credibility they deserve.
Yeah.
And that's what I find now a wee bit hard to accept. Where back in my day, we all supported each other. We all went to the Brits together. We all went to the Worlds together. We all went to the universe together. We all supported each other because, to me, we were putting our wee country on the map. Do you know what I mean? Against the best in the world. Where for some reason now, a lot of people don't want that. They don't want to see their peers or their training partners or their gyms or whatever doing well. And I think that's the sad truth about, you know, the fitness industry over here, the way I see it, you know. And so now it's not all like that. There is guys out there and gyms out there and supplement companies out there that would do the support. But whenever I started promoting the show, I seen a couple of sides of things where I was like, you know, that's not, you know, that could be a wee bit better, or this could be a wee bit better. And it puts a wee bit of dent in it for you when you're trying to, you know, give these guys the opportunities and give these guys the chances, and a few people aren't playing ball, you know. When you can see it from there, you know, they put their heart and soul into it, and, you know, nobody's willing to kind of back them up. And when people ask me why the standard in some other countries is better, that's why it's better. Because even across the water in England, they support each other. They sponsor each other.
I was about to say, it's just that they have their, what I saw was, I've only been over there twice to compete. Both times they had teams, they had they had groups, they had teams, they had all the pros there. Like I saw 6 or 7, I saw multiple people I knew, and you know, it was all very friendly. There was no, you know, bitchiness about it, even though it was, you know, the end of the year, it was a big show. And the one thing I found when I came back home was you're going to get there's certain gyms that have certain athletes and they do get pushed, but then there's certain gyms that have some great athletes. And when the athletes have asked, do you mind even just if I put my trophy here and whatever, just a bit of promotion, just a little bit of this or that, or maybe I can promote the gym. What can I do for the gym to get it out there? The gyms don't want to play ball just based off it doesn't, you know, they don't see it as a possibility. Whereas I think the hardcore gyms that have stuck around, or even the new ones that are, I find it's the semi-private gyms. The smaller gyms seem to be a lot more supportive of individual athletes now, as opposed to
big time.
Yeah, I think like independent owners have that freedom to do it, like yourself. And the story I have.
Whenever you come from,
carry on.
I think when you come from that background, you realize, Owen, that the work is in it. Like I know the work I put into it, and I see it. I prep people for shows across both north and south, and I see the work and effort to put into it. You know, and you know, it is hard. It's not easy, and it's not easy coming from over here where a lot of people don't want you to succeed. You know, and you see the work them guys put into day to day, and you know the work they put into it because you've been through it. And like they're not asking for much; they're asking for a wee bit of help get noticed, or a wee bit of help to get their foot in through the door. And you know, 9 times out of 10, like you say, a lot of the bigger guys or a lot of the bigger chains, they don't want to know, because at the end of the day, they don't want to be seen to be either helping somebody else or, you know, whatever may be, politics or anything. You know, when I'm sitting there looking back going, these are the guys that are training in your gym. They're paying your memberships. You know, they're making you have a good living, and you can't even help them out in any way, shape, or form. You know, and it's sad because whenever I went across the water and I've competed, you know, the UK team are all track-suited out together. They sit together, they train together, they eat together, and we're over in different wee segments. You know, looking down at each other. You know what I mean? And sometimes I went over there laughing. Like, I remember the Worlds when I competed in 2014. We were the host country, Northern Ireland, and you know, we were all kind of running about like Egypts, you know, back and forward. And there was the England team in the corner, 20 of them sitting strong, the Polish team, the Australian team, and we weren't sitting together. We were all over the place, you know what I mean? And, you know, you look back on it going, fuck, we should have been the ones leading the flag. We should have been the ones that were sitting at the front united. We should have been the ones that were shouting for each other. We should have been raising the roof. And we weren't, you know, and it always I always looked at that when I go over abroad. You see how close a lot of the other teams are, and the Northern Irish one, they're never sitting together. You know what I mean? They're always sitting in different parts, if you even see them. You know, I think I done the Pro Universe last year, and I would have said a lot of the ones that were competing beforehand weren't even there watching it. And, you know, I'm not blaming them. I'm not, you know, slagging them off. I'm just saying that I think over here, it's more thought of an individual sport as opposed to a team sport, you know.
Yeah.
And I've always said around me, for me personally, I've always said that I wouldn't be here without the guys that have helped me and the guys that have got me here, you know. And so for me personally, you know, bodybuilding is a team sport. You know, you need your training partners, you need your coaches, you need your, you know, your wife or whatever it is. You know, to me, I definitely wouldn't be here without the support network I've had, you know. So there is an element of team, and I think over here so far we just haven't got that, you know, whereas a lot of the other countries have got that down, and it shows both on and off the stage.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm trying to do with this. The end goal, I want to bring back interviews for shows up in the north and south. I want to do live top 3 interviews with every class, like Irish Muscle used to do. Brilliant. Until they stopped. And I don't think it would be that hard to sort out either. I'd do it at your show. I'd do it at every show in the country. Once they resume, anyway, it's just a case of waiting. But
yeah, that's the big question.
But that being said, do you think now, when the shows do go ahead at the end of the years, I think the standard of those shows is going to be packed because everybody's going to be wanting to get qualifications or something.
Big time. Big time.
So
big
it's just
time. Like, I know when we got the notice this year on for the shows, me and Dave Warner kind of got together and we spoke about it. We both said we were going to go at it with the United Front. In other words, if NABBA goes ahead, we'll push PCA. We actually rebooked a smaller venue that not a lot of people know about because the Ulster Hall pulled the pin, obviously being a council-run gym.
Yeah.
Me and Dave, we went and booked another venue, and we were actually looking at the possibility of holding it behind closed doors.
Okay.
For the simple reason being, believe it or not, now a lot of people don't know actually what goes into show promoting, you know, and there is a hell of a lot. And basically, Dave is so passionate about NABBA up here. It's like Paul Byrne down south. He is, and he doesn't get the credibility he deserves. He really doesn't. And, you know, we've kind of came together over the years whenever PCA was coming over here, and I've sort of worked with him. So whenever the PCA and NABBA were looking into running shows, we basically pulled the pin on the Friday that the country, so to speak, went into lockdown and gyms were closed, because that was it. So up until that point, we were fighting to keep it going. And we had booked a venue. We had looked into the possibility of running it with no spectators. And, you know, all we were doing it for was to get the competitors their qualifications to the Britons that were going to be held later on. And that was our main goal. As long as we could put a team together, right, you've placed. That was the way we were working at it. So it was going to be a more or less key event, but the aim was to run it through, you know, as a qualification. And, you know, there was a few guys up here, like, it went against the gravy for a lot of people. Like, I seen a few of the Facebook comments, and to be honest with you, I was a wee bit hurt, because a lot of the Facebook comments from certain competitors up here were saying that me and Dave were only in it for the money, and that, you know, we were running these shows for the money. And, you know, what I would try to say to people is there was going to be no money made at it because there was no spectators. We get the money from the tickets on the door.
Yeah.
So if there was no spectators, we were actually going to be out money, because we had to pay for trophies, we had to pay for a venue, we had to pay for staff, we had to get judges. So we were actually going to lose money at that, and we were prepared to do it just to get these competitors on stage, get their qualifications, and get them across to another show when it happened, you know. And that again just shows the fickleness of the fitness industry, where people are actually thinking that way. And, you know, we did try to the very last minute, and then obviously with the powers that be, we had to pull it. But we're still in cahoots to try to get something at the end of the year, because we obviously know the Britons in both PCA and NABBA are still planning on running. The universe hasn't been changed, but it still needs, you know, qualifications. So I've said to people that I'm prepping, anybody that's asked, listen, as far as I'm aware, it's going to go ahead. We can't give you a date because we don't know when we're going to be allowed to train. But by the meetings we've had with different people, we're saying in around 10 to 12 weeks. So say the gyms are open in June, we'll aim to give people 10 to 12 weeks to get ready, you know, because let's face facts, Owen, most people have been training at home or not training. Their diets is meant to be a bit lax. So obviously they're going to need 10 or 12 weeks to get ready. You know, you're going to have to get that tissue back that maybe has softened up a wee bit. You're also going to have to be dieting. So it's not going to be easy. And I do feel for the guys that are prepping this year, because any of them that are sort of still thinking about competing, they're in limbo. You know,
Yeah.
they're in lockdown limbo at the minute where there's no gyms, there's no this, you know, and fuck, you know, I don't know if I could do it. You know, if I was in that position at the minute, I feel for them. I remember one of the guys saying to me this year, oh, a lot of people have pulled out, the standard's not going to be as good, so why would you want to win? And I said, listen, see from my perspective, see whoever wins the NABBA or the PCA this year, to me, they will be the best winner in history. And he's looking at me going, why? I said, because they stuck it out. This is a massive, massive, you know, block. And people that have stuck it out and people that have made it to the stage, I say, fair play to you. My hat goes off to whoever wins any shows this year because of the circumstances, because they've stuck it out. They've stayed on the diet. They've stayed true training at home. And they deserve all the respect they get, even if it wasn't going to be one of the favourites that have decided to pull out because it didn't suit them. To me, whoever wins it this year, if it goes ahead or when it goes ahead, absolutely deserves it, because they've steered through this obstacle. They've stayed true to the path and they've come out the other side, you know. So for me personally, I don't think it's going to be a lower standard. I think the people that are going to turn up are going to turn up in good shape. And I think the trick for us as promoters is picking the right date that gives people enough time to prep for it. You know, the trick is it needs to be long enough away that people have enough time to get the muscle back and diet, but it's also soon enough that people aren't forced into another diet for another show straight away. So I think from a promoter's perspective, we're studying when we're getting open and then looking at venues so that we can book them right away to get it sorted. But I'm hoping that bodybuilding goes ahead this year. I think it needs to, just for people's heads. You know, I know I see a lot of people on Facebook and social media saying cancel everything for the year, which is fair and good if you haven't started prepping yet. But obviously, if you've been in prep, to me, they deserve something so that they can put an end to that, you know. So anybody I've been speaking to, shows, in my opinion, are still going ahead and will continue to go ahead until I'm sure, you know, you can't, and every opportunity has been exhausted. But I would expect shows to go ahead around September, October this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mental side of it is the big thing, really. I mean, especially with Luke Sandow passing, and then you have obviously other bodybuilders are probably having tough times, if not tougher as well. Like I tell people, look, at the end of the day, just think about it in this way. It's like, if you're not prepping, all you have to do is eat a little bit less if you don't have to. Like I tell people this, look, I'm not trying to gain weight. There's no point, because I don't have the equipment at home I need to gain the muscle and weight that I want to gain. So just take a break and just rest the body up for the next push. But when you're doing a prep and when you're in a prep and your hormones are up, down or whatever, and then this all happens, your mind is going to be all over the place. But I mean, seeing him pass was mad. I thought he was set to win the Olympics, which is the next. He was going to win it in the next few years, I thought. But
he had everything. He was probably, in my opinion, the best. He had the most. We talked earlier on about the wow factor. He had the wow factor. You know, he just stooped. Like some of the pictures I've seen of him in the gym, not even on stage, but just in the gym or just standing there, you just went, wow. It was just amazing. The amount of muscle that hung off that man was crazy, you know. And what was even better was how humble and how nice he came across. That's the big thing, you know. When somebody comes across that he's on your level, you can kind of relate to that and you can kind of see his appeal, you know. Not only was he an amazing bodybuilder, but any of his podcasts that he done, he was good crack, he was informative, he seemed to just, you know, love life, and that was what it was about, you know. So whenever I heard that, you know, I didn't know him personally at all, and I know a lot of people, but I think out of every bodybuilder that I've heard pass away, he definitely was one that everybody stopped and went, you know, Jesus, it hit them, and it could not hit you, you know what I mean? And it just come at that time, like you say, with the lockdown and everything else going across, and you know, it just shows in general how we as bodybuilders need that outlet. We need that gym, we need that thing, and I think that's when the big call to the government, you know, about mental health and about gyms. And it is something that we all need. Like, it's my vice. Do you know what I mean? If I wasn't able to train, you know, or anything else, God knows where I would be, you know. And I think that applies to a lot of people. And unless you're in the bodybuilding industry, unless you've got that focus, nobody will understand it, you know. And I think that's why there's so much debate on social media about the gym being essential versus not essential, you know. For me personally, as a bodybuilder and as a trainer and as a gym owner, I think there's nothing more essential, you know.
Yeah.
I just refuse to argue with people because there's no point. They've made their opinion and I'm not there to change it. But to me personally, it's one of the most essential things you can step into. Anybody steps into here feels good. You know, there's no negative trade-off. There's nothing. It's just about feeling good. It's about training. It's about, you know, self-esteem, everything. And anybody that I've seen fall into that category have always done well, you know. Bodybuilding has its, you know, pitfalls, we'll say. But for me, it helped me become the person I am today. Well, that's, you know, a husband, a father, a business owner, and everything else. And I believe that it was that discipline and dedication to bodybuilding helped shape my path in a positive way, you know. And if it wasn't for bodybuilding, I don't think I'd definitely be here or to the point where I am in a good way, you know. So I can see and relate to Luke, and I can probably say a lot of people can do the same in terms of the situation we're in and everything else, you know. But definitely was probably the saddest day I've seen in bodybuilding for a long time, you know.
No, absolutely. I mean, the mental side of it is crazy, but I mean, tying into the whole getting into the gym and everything. I mean, look, my own goals. I mean, I want to own my own gym within the next 2 years. Obviously, that's on lockdown now. With the lockdown, like I just got qualified to even start working in it, but so look, we aren't up and running till August. But what's your story behind opening your own facility? And obviously, it's a fairly well equipped gym. It's a solid facility. But what's the story behind it?
I've basically personal trained probably for the last 20 plus years, you know.
Cool.
And you know, I've always enjoyed it. It tied into what I'd done and competing. It tied into what I'd done training. So it was a no-brainer. I just got to a point where I was, you know, I was sort of going to Gym Zone and looking at it and thinking, can we have this? Can we have that? And, you know, a lot of the gym owners that I worked for just were this is going to sound bad if anyone's listening, we're concentrating on one thing and one thing only, you know. And because bodybuilding was my thing, I always loved equipment. I always loved getting new stuff. I always loved trying stuff, you know. And it got to a point where I thought to myself, right, I need to get out and work for myself because I'm doing all these things. I'm getting clients and I'm doing the bulk of it. And, you know, I've nothing there. And I thought to myself, I'm getting older here. At that stage, I had 2-3 kids. And I thought to myself, I want a legacy. I want something to pass down to my kids. You know, let's face facts. I don't want to be 70 years of age and standing on a personal training floor for somebody else on a walking stick telling people how to train, you know, and looking at bikini girls. I don't think that was going to be the best career move.
No.
So I thought to myself, if I get my own place, you know, I'm ready to kind of take that next step. So after I got the Worlds out of the road, I was sort of ready to kind of do something that I could put 100% into. You know, I had the bodybuilding thing. I was putting 100% in. I was on the verge of kind of being happy to leave it. I had 2 young kids at that stage. So it was starting to be the personal family thing. I was starting to think, you know, I need something more secure. I want to do something here. And the gym was just the next step, you know. So we looked into a few locations. I had a few sleepless nights, a few sleepless weeks. Obviously, when we got it open, it was well kitted. It was probably one of the best kitted gyms in the north at that stage. But you always have this worry, is it going to work? You know, because that fear of failure, just like competing on, you know, you've always that fear, am I good enough? Am I going to do well? The gym was exactly the same thing. You know, it was the first day we opened it, you were worried how many people was going to turn up. But we just worked at it, just like your physique. You work at it, you pug it, you get to people. You just kind of learn as you go. Like when I opened the gym, I hadn't a clue about anything business related, you know, public liability insurance, computer systems, you know. I was sitting looking at people going, is your head away, you know? Yes, I know how to train people. Yes, I know how to train myself. But in terms of owning a business, hadn't a clue. And you just learned as you went along and you made the mistakes like you did doing a bodybuilding show and you just get into it, you know. And because of my niche in bodybuilding, the first year I opened, it was 2015. And so 2016 was the first Northern Ireland. And I set out the day I opened it, I want to win. There's do a thing up here called the NABBA Gym of the Year, which is basically the gym of the year. So it's based on the competitors that enters and the points, you know. So how many competitors enter, who wins, and then the most successful gym gets promoted. And I had won it for 2 other gyms up in the north that I worked in. And I thought to myself, right, I want to win it for my own gym. That's my first goal is 2016, NABBA Gym of the Year. Went to 2016, went to NABBA, won Gym of the Year. And in the last 4 years, so 2016, 17, 18, 19, we've won it 3 out of 4 times, you know. And that's the legacy that I wanted. So that's my, that's made me think this was worth it. I tied my bodybuilding, my training, everything into prepping people. We sort of like looked out for the best people. We attracted the best people, and we made some fantastic physiques, or helped make some fantastic physiques up here. But all the while on, we had it in a nice environment that wouldn't be a hardcore gym. It's nicely painted, it's nicely decorated, it looks well, and it's also got members that have nothing to do with bodybuilding. And I think that was the big point up here. I wanted to make a gym that had the best athletes in the country, but also had normal people, we'll call them, and it gelled and it worked, and it did, and it does. And that's the big thing that I'm most proud of. Not only have we got probably one of the best equipped gyms in the north, we've also got the best members, and they all get on. There's no idiots, no idiots, there's no egos. Everybody gets on. Everybody has a laugh. Everybody enjoys their training. And you just love working on it. It's just a lovely environment and a lovely atmosphere. You love coming into work. You don't mind doing 10, 12-hour days. You love talking to the people. And, that's the main thing. And I think, my dad said to me years ago, if you find a job you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life. And to be fair, since I've opened the gym, that's what it's been for me, and that's probably the hard thing at the minute. You're missing that sort of, that bit of crack in the gym, the customers, the clients, the friends, you know what I mean, all the relationships you make, and you are missing it, you know what I mean. And I think that's the big thing for me, is getting back, not even obviously for the income side of things, but also getting back to the fact that we're all back as that wee family, that wee community, that wee social aspect, and 5 years we're open this year, and like I say, it's just going from strength to strength. So look back 5 years ago when I had all them sleepless nights. I'm looking at it now, don't get me wrong, you still have sleepless nights, you still have worries, you still have concerns, but it was the best move I ever made, and I suppose that's what I traded my bodybuilding career and my competing for actually helping other people out. And do you know something, when this is good, this is going to be mad, but you actually get more out of it. I get more out of seeing the people that I've helped win than I ever did of me winning. And I think that's the big thing for me. I go to shows, and the running joke is I'm standing there shouting up at the stage and shouting at the competitors and shouting at, and you're nearly crying at the end of it. You know what I mean? When you see them winning, you're nearly crying. You have even goosebumps here thinking about it at the minute, but you're literally so proud and so happy to see that come through, and I think that's what's made it for me, and I think that's sort of what's made stepping out of bodybuilding, or stepping back slightly from the competing side of bodybuilding. I think that's made it easier, because you're still doing it through other people, and you're still enjoying it through other people. You're still getting to the shows, and now you're just trying to pass on as much knowledge and as much information into them as possible. And obviously now with the gym and them representing the gym, it's just absolutely fantastic,
Deadly.
So definitely the best move.
Deadly. I like the other thing that ties into that. I tell people this. I mean, if you want to be competitive, there's two ways you can go about it. Either get into an industry that allows you to bodybuild, or leave your job, because it depends on how badly you want to make it work. I mean, like hearing that, that's great, because like I'm only going to be getting into the whole training thing and helping people out, because I mean, you get a feeling of self-satisfaction, as well as, the financial benefits, of course. But I mean, I'd rather work in an industry that, it doesn't feel like a job. Like, I'd rather help people feel like they want to get up to push them to do what they want to do. But regards training people and everything like that, is there any athletes, or do you have any up and coming girls or guys in the scene that you think are gonna do, even better?
In my opinion, we have, and again, I'm biased in this, but in this gym, we have churned out some of the most amazing competitors. Like last year, we had, we've James Gibson, for starting with, who, in my eyes, is, well, we've two guys in here, to be honest with you, and if any of the two of them is listening or will be listening, I would love to see the two of them go head to head. We've James Gibson, and we've another guy who won the Northern Ireland a couple of years back called Graham Richardson. And Graham is my ideal of a bodybuilder. He basically trains like fuck, does what he needs to do, gets on the stage, wins the show, and goes home. And you never hear anything about it on social media. You never hear anybody. He just gets on. He just loves it. And them two, in my opinion, are easily the best two in this country. That's just fact. There's there's no doubt in my mind that them two on their day just are amazing, and both them training in our gym. So that would be the two main up-and-coming fellas that we would have, you know, in the amateur scene. We've then got Haley Gaisley, he's Miss Fitness or Miss Toned World. We have Emma Quinn, who would be 3-time Miss Athletic. We've got Maria Cummings, who again was novice Miss Toned. We've got a girl, Sheila Morton. We've got who else have we got? We've Evelyn, who works in the gym with us. Evelyn McConkey. There's so many fantastic physiques in this gym. It's crazy, you know. And the big thing they've all got going for them is they actually don't know how good they are, which is nice. And I don't know if that's because I kick the humbleness into them, or whether they're genuinely humble people, but they don't know how good they are, and they're just a joy to work with. And I think, you know, that's when you've got a blend of so many good athletes and so many good competitors, you usually get too many egos. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's one thing in this gym that they don't have. They don't have the egos. They're willing to help everybody, and everybody just kind of gets on. And I think that's been the big thing, and everybody likes to see everybody well, you know. So I think in that respect, these are the people that you're going to be seeing a lot of in the Northern Ireland scene. You know, in my opinion, I would have been very surprised if we didn't go this year before lockdown and didn't win our 5th gym of the year, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? Because the guys that were competing, there were some serious physiques, you know. And all of them at that stage, 6 weeks out, were looking fantastic, you know.
Yeah,
I think next year or this year later on, you're definitely going to be in for a treat, you know. But definitely, I would say we've easily got 10 or 12 of the best physiques in the country at the minute, you know.
For sure.
Up and coming ways.
I mean, I look at James, Mark. I look at James, and I see. I mean, he has the shape. He has the shape to go with the size. You know, he's not lacking anything. Just
there's no weaknesses, but
like
James works for him.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that I've seen.
I've seen him deadlift. I've seen him do those 300 crazy, like.
Yeah, you know, and that's what it takes. He has the work ethic. He has the shape. He has the knowledge. You know, and when all them things combine and you've the drive, then, you know, good luck to anybody standing beside him. You know, and that's the bottom line. If he gets in shape, which he does, he wins. It's as simple as that. You know what I mean? And that's the bottom line on it, you know. And anybody can argue, but the proof's in the pudding. You know, the facts are there. I wouldn't fancy as an amateur standing beside him on any day of the week, you know.
Yeah, I remember I'd be good friends with Christian McAlinden. Like, he helped me with
yes.
We grew up together, so we go back a long while, and he helped me for your show, and he helped me as a junior. Like, I think it was 8 years ago now. 8 years ago now. And no, I remember I was saying I think that would be a good showdown. Have the two young bucks against each other, the two winners of the NABBA scene, and so both ends. That would be a good showdown. But that being said,
definitely,
who do you think is there any younger guys or any up and coming like, not just in your gym? I mean, anywhere really that you would be.
I haven't really seen, you know, the best junior competitor I seen in a while. It was your man, or not a novice competitor, sorry, it was your man, Johnny McAlevey. Yeah. I don't know if you remember Johnny. It's Frankie's brother. Frankie was another one. And Johnny done his first show, and my jaw hit the floor. And since he kind of disappeared, my jaw hasn't hit the floor with anybody else, if you know what I mean. There was a wee guy done the PCA juniors a couple of years back, I think, from Dublin. And he won the juniors, and he was fantastic. He beat
I know exactly who you're talking about.
He was another guy.
Yeah,
he was another guy that made me. Yes, that's him. He made my jaw drop as well.
Yeah.
But Johnny McAlevey would have been one guy that I would love to have seen going a wee bit further, because he had the size, he had the shape, he had the structure, he had the detail. Everything was there, and for some reason he never come back, you know. But there's a few guys in that. You know, I remember another guy. I'm sure you remember him, Glenn Ferguson from Northern Ireland. He won the juniors a couple of years back. He went over to the Britons. He placed second in a real good lineup. He was another guy. After that, never come back, you know. Yeah. And you can go back on down for a guy called Paul Harkin, maybe 15, 20 years ago, done the same. So there has been juniors with loads of potential. but for some reason they just hung it up early, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
he would be,
have friends, Mark, who just dropped off the scene. I mean, I started,
yeah,
like, I'm 25 now. I started when I was 18. And I remember the first time I competed in NABBA, it was under 21. There was 21 people in the class. Out of that, people
Jesus.
who are still competing, I'm the only one still competing in that class. Now there's two people who are doing it. So I'm kind of like, do you think it's just a case of a lot of young guys? Like, this is what I found anyway. The guys who I competed with, they're either very good responders to what they're doing and they don't actually want to stick it out much further, or like it's been a
Yeah,
fluke for a few of them. Like, I know a few guys who just have it. They just don't have the actual bodybuilding work ethic or drive to
yeah,
pursue it further, which is a shame because some of them look
yeah.
phenomenal. Um,
But
like that's
I think that's actually, you're 100% when you hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, you know yourself what it takes to get into shape. And like, it's not nice. It's not, anybody that tells you doing a bodybuilding diet is nice is lying. You know what I mean? There's nothing nice about the last 4 to 6 weeks of a prep. And I think
no,
a lot of people do it once. They've decided to commit to it and they keep doing it. And eventually they just go, I'm not doing that again. And I think there's a couple of bodybuilders that I've known that have just said to me, I'm never going to do that again, you know, never. And I think that's what it is. I think when they realize what it actually takes to
yeah,
get ready for a show year in year, they just go, not for me, you know.
crazy.
And, you know, I know a lot of guys that train well. And I'm sure you've seen guys in the gym that train, we'll not call it half hours, we'll call it okay. And they just grow. You know, these guys put very little effort into their training and they grow. But the problem is when they diet, they don't have the work ethic to train hard.
Yeah,
So they don't have the work ethic when it comes to the diet. And that's where it's lost. You know, these guys who are probably better genetics than most people just can't diet. They just can't get ready because it's just too uncomfortable.
yeah,
And that's what it boils down to. You know, like at the end of the day, if you give these same guys that you're talking about out of that lineup, the other 19, and say to them, listen, see if you take this blue pill, you'll get in shape every week, every year. So you don't have to diet. The night before the show, take this pill, and I guarantee all 21 will still be competing.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So
sure, for sure.
it is the work ethic, it is the diet, it is the lifestyle, and it's just certain people aren't you know,
Yeah,
acclimatized to it. The problem, I think, the big issue with bodybuilding in terms of the difference between it and other sports is bodybuilding is 24/7 and it's 365 days a year. You know, you have to be willing to make certain sacrifices all the time. You know, you have to be willing to eat right. You know, you have to be able to eat, you know, 6, 7, 8 meals a day, every day of the week. You know, whether that's a wee bit of junk included in that, but you have to be willing to do that 7 days a week, all the time, 365 days of the year. You have to be willing to train at least 4 times a week, 52 weeks of the year. You know, so there's no day off, there's no week off, there's no month off. It's consistent, you know.
yeah,
And if you get guys that you're talking about bodybuilding, they'll not say it's a sport, it's a lifestyle. And that's the thing, you know. You get a boxer, 12-week fight camp, he goes nuts, he trains hard for 12 weeks, then he can have a break. Any bodybuilder that's doing well, there's no breaks. It's consistent, it's constant, and just people can't hack it. And
yeah,
what I've realized as I've got older, you know, and I've got sort of priorities sort of shift. If you're not willing to put what you had to put in, like for example, what I had to do to win, if you can't put that into it, then there's no point trying. There's no point you wanting to compete at the top level because you're not going to be able to. You know, you're not going to be able to hang with them guys that are coming through the ranks that are willing to do what you used to do. And whenever you hit my age, which is 41 now, injuries start taking its toll. The body doesn't feel as good. You need more time to recover. There's other things going on in life. And if you can't strip that back to keep competing or to keep going, then you're going to get beat because the guys coming up the hill are just going to take you out and have no qualms doing it, you know?
yeah. I tell people this, like, if you want to be a good bodybuilder, you have to train with people who are either better than you or stronger than you. So I refuse to train with
Yeah.
the genetic elites because training with them isn't actually that hard because they don't train that hard
No.
a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
it's either that or train on my own. But I found like I'd train with guys like the guys who've won shows, and I've always found
Yeah.
a few of them will either be like, you know, you'll stick with training with them, keep them as a training partner, or they don't really train that hard because they want it, because they're just specimens. But it's one way or the other. But that being said, I think that's what makes the sport so great, because when you do get the genetic freaks that do combine the work ethic with it, that's when you get a superstar. That's when you get the future winners. And we're coming up. Yeah, absolutely. And I think with the muscle contest as well, that's given us like the whole island another avenue. I mean, we have Josh Coyle, we have Emma Gormley, we have Shane Cullen, Vinnie Crane, Darren Farrell,
Alison O'Leary as well.
Yes, and Jessica Kavanagh, and then IB, and we have a few guys I'm sure who are going to shock people doing that show.
Yeah.
And I think that's great that we have an avenue now for people to become IFBB, because the only way to do it really was down here anyway. It was the RBBF and then going to the Arnold or the Europeans. Whereas I think up with you guys, it was the UK BFF. So do you think so it's definitely a good thing?
Yeah. It is a good thing, but do you know the one thing that I would say, and I had this argument with an IFBB pro bodybuilder who shall remain nameless, but my thing was up here, and this is my belief in it, right? Whenever I was doing the shows, right, our way up here to get an IFBB pro card was win your UK BFF regional, across to the finals, win your class, and win the overall. If you did that, like Luke or Nathan or any of them guys, you knew you were going to do well because you were the top bodybuilder in the UK. So regardless of what anybody thought, you were the man. And the bottom line tell it is, usually you did well. My main issue with the more shows now, the two pros, is there's certain people that are turning pro that, I'm not trying to be a bollocks here, but aren't going to do shit. And to me, what is the point in turning up on shows in the IFBB if you're going to get stuffed? The problem with the IFBB at an international level, Owen, if you know, is if you do the pre-judging, you get looked at for 5 minutes, and if you don't make the cut of the top 10 or 15, that's your show over. So you're basically flying to, say, Toronto or wherever it is, New York, and if you're not liked by the judges, you've literally got 5 minutes stage time, and you've spent all that money prepping, all that money flying, all that money staying, and you're not even getting a look at. And that's what my main issue is. I think as a result, there's more pros. We'll put it like this. There's less pros. There's less people turn pro in NABBA now a year worldwide than there is in the IFBB.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's 8 pros turn pro in NABBA. So for me personally, if you're in the elite of the elite, in other words, the pinnacle, the way to pro status should be harder. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, because two bros are starting to tighten it up, and some of the guys that you mentioned definitely 100% deserve their pro cards and will do well. But there are ones that I know that won't do well, and that's just the bottom line, and that's not me taking it away from them, and that's not me having sour grapes about them having a pro card. It's just the reality of the situation. And the argument I had was, if one pro card's available in the UK, right, everybody's fighting for it. It's like a golden ticket. So it brings out the best. So on that day, if you win that, you are the best in the country by far. Whereas if you had, like, I think one time a couple of years back when the two bros come out, there was something like 80 or 90 pro cards handed out in the UK. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're kind of sitting going, what, a lot of them won't use it, and a lot of the ones that try to use it won't do anything. So in my opinion, yes, it's a good thing because it does represent more opportunities, but it's also not as good a thing because it dilutes that sort of elite sort of thing, and it kind of diminishes the thing of the IFBB pro card. I know back in my day, if you got an IFBB pro card, it was like, whoa, that's fantastic. You really, now they're handing them out that much that you look away 1 week and 4 weeks later there's 20 new IFBB pros. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a bit of a
for
mess.
me, it kind of
it
takes the sparkle away from it,
Yeah.
So
I mean, I always thought, like, back before the split, I always thought that a way the South and North could have done it was they could have had the nationals, and then they could have had like a finals
Yeah.
and should have been the way where the overall wins the
Yeah.
pro card. Because I know for a fact
You think
that
about it.
the bodybuilders down here in the Republic, if we just gave the pro card at our nationals, bar the few exceptions, we wouldn't do shit. We needed the competitive scene. We needed the push from higher level competitors,
Yeah.
to make us better. But
that
you need
what
the
you
push.
said there hits the nail on the head. You know, if somebody takes the standard to here, to high, and then it goes higher, you know, your only way of doing it is to get better. Like if you think about it, I'll give you an example. Eddie Hall pulls 500. Nobody thought
Yeah.
500 was possible. He pulled 500. Now Thor pulled 501.
Yeah.
So when somebody raises the bar, you raise the bar further again. And
Yeah.
I think with them, and again, not to try to sound, you know, demeaning to people's accomplishments, but I think when you lower the bar, which to me has happened slightly by the introduction of more ways to turn pro, then the bar lowers with it because the standard doesn't get as big. You know, if there's one pro card in Ireland every year, I can guarantee you there'll be a dogfight to get that pro card. And I can guarantee you that the guy that gets that pro card will be something special. And that's what it's all about. You know, it's like we said at the start, you want to see wow walk out in that stage. You want to be sitting in that table going, whoa. Do you know what I mean? That's what bodybuilding's all about. Bodybuilding's all about wow. That doesn't mean freak factor mass. It just means the whole package, whether it's aesthetic, mass. Because to me, a proper pro bodybuilder should be able to stand on stage with anybody. You know what I mean? He should have everything. He should have enough size. It doesn't have to be overly. He should have condition. He should have symmetry. He should have shape. He should have aesthetic. And, you know, to me personally, that's another thing now. You know, you hear all these guys going, these mass monsters, this, that. See the guys like Flex Wheeler, Sean Ray, Chris Cormier. They stood on stage with the best mass monsters in the world. It didn't matter. If you were a good enough bodybuilder, right? You were a good enough bodybuilder, regardless of what size, shape, or condition. It was just, there's the bodybuilders, who's the best. And many's the time they were the smaller guy, but they were that good, they beat the bigger guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what bodybuilding's all about. You know, I would never have looked at Flex Wheeler and thought he's small, but he was never the biggest. But he just had that thing when he walked out, your jaw hit the floor.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what's lacking a wee bit nowadays. And I think it's lacking because, like you say, there's too many opportunities to turn pro. You know, there's not as much of a dogfight. You know, people know there's another chance or another show, whereas back in the day you had one chance to nail it and you either nailed it or you get stuffed. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that's what I did like about the muscle contest though, is because there's only one pro card and only one avenue so far in the island to give it. The guys who win it have generally been quite good. I mean, like your man who won the bodybuilding, he was on the Olympia stage. So you do get that, but I think I agree 100%. But on the other end of it, the top guys are always going to be at the top anyway. So it's always going to be the good guys are going to win. It just gives
true.
I just find it just gives too much credibility to people who don't really deserve it. Like it's like I think that's why I always tell people this. I mean, I was prepping somebody for October, and I told them this: look, you're a junior. The only thing you have to do is come in absolutely in shape, and you will place regardless. And then we can move up the ranks from there. But I tell people this: if you want to be a good bodybuilder, you know, see how you do well in the amateurs. Like do the PCA, do NABBA, because the standard there is high as hell anyway. If you do your first show and you do an IFBB 2 Pro, a pro qualifier, it's going to be demoralizing for you if you're not at that level.
Yeah.
So do you think it's just a case of dilution? Do you think it's just a case of more money?
I think there is. Well, the 2 pros is an opportunity to print money, you know, because they hold out the IFBB pro card, and obviously people coming forward now want this pro card. Bikini girls that have been competing for 6 months, you know, figure models, they're all wanting this pro card because they feel it gives them a stance, which, to be fair, for the ones that are going to do something with it, it does. Do you know what I mean? But everybody's out to get it. And if you think of the money, if you think of the money that you have to pay to enter this show and the ticket prices and things, you know, it's literally a gold mine. You know, they've got the formula perfect because, you know, what they're offering people is a chance to go pro, and everybody and their dog at the minute wants to go pro. Do you know what I mean? If you sat and thought about the pro ranks, to be fair, it actually lessens your chances of competing. You know, if you're an amateur bodybuilding in North or South Ireland, you've got the PCA, you've got NABBA, you've got the UK BFF, the two pros. Yeah. You have so many federations, so many opportunities to compete. And for me, Owen, as well, I used to love being on stage with the people I knew watching me. You know, the big, you know, the first time I went to the Britons, you could have heard a pin drop. It was so demoralizing. Nobody was cheering for you. You know, nobody knew who you were. So all you could hear in the background was somebody going, "Hey, Mark," you know, yeah. And nothing else. But as you walk out in the north of Ireland, Belfast or Dublin, all your friends are in the audience, all your families in the audience. You know, you get excited. All that work, you're showcasing it to the people that matters. You know, yeah. You turn pro, best in the IFBB, right? You have to go to America or Europe. You know, so all that goes. You lose that. Like, I know my own experiences from competing as a pro. I've mixed feelings about it because I had to go to either England for the Universe, where the Worlds was at, which could be Mexico, or go across to Europe and compete in the European circuit, like Italy or France. Yeah. And you were basically going on your own or with a mate. So when you come out on the stage, it was literally, you know, there was pins dropping. You lost. You were over there to win one, no problem. But you lost that. It's a weird one. You lost that sort of buzz for the stage. You lost that sort of, you know, when people were raising the roof in your local shows, you know. Yeah. It wasn't that much fun. The fun had been brought out of it. You were just there to win, and that was it, you know. And I think that's the thing people don't think about. People don't think about what happens after. You know, when I get the pro card, what am I actually going to do with it? Am I good enough to use this to make money? Am I good enough to use this to compete in the States and win? And I think that's where you have to be realistic instead of being, optimistic or delusional, whatever way you want to put it, you know. And I think that's the big thing about turning pro as well, you know. Me personally, if I had stayed amateur, I'd have probably had far more fun competing. Now, you know, the stakes are that bit higher. You know, you're not an amateur. You're not allowed to make mistakes. There's constant pressure. I know it sounds ridiculous. And also, you don't have that, you know, you don't have that walking out in your local town and everybody just going mad for you and you actually loving it, you know. So I think that's the big difference in it, you know. I think now, you know, people are kind of getting away with that pro card that the likes of two bros and places like that are getting, you know, they're making that money, they're making that moves, and people are happy to do it, you know. Yeah. They're not actually thinking about the love of bodybuilding, what it actually means and entails, you know. And I think that's about, it's not so much lost, but I think it's sort of, you know, lost in translation between what people want. Like years ago when I started competing, I didn't turn around and go, I want to be a pro. Maybe 2 years into it, 3 years into it, 4, 5, 10 years, then you're thinking, maybe I could turn pro. But you'd already won things. I hear girls now that haven't stepped on stage and they want to turn pro in the first show. And you're going, whoa, who's the Bikini Olympia champion? I don't know. And you're going, you don't even know. Who's the bodybuilding champions? I don't know. I just want to be a pro. And you're sitting there scratching your head going, what am I hearing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what I get that from, though?
Sort of funny.
You know what I get that from, though, Mark? I get that from in the gyms I train in now in Dublin. They're so... I'd split my gyms up. I'd go for different body parts to different gyms and stuff like that. But I'd meet some of the guys there. And I'd talk to them, and they'd be 18, 17, you know, young enough, and they'd be saying, oh, I want to get into competing. I'm like, oh, deadly, what are you looking to do? Are you going to do junior bodybuilding? And it's like, no, I'm going to do men's physique. And it's like, what am I meant to say? I mean, I love the fact that they're going to compete, but it's not the passion. It's not the same kind of. No. I think they're trying to bypass the a lot of young guys don't want to get into that. They think they're going to get too big, but I don't get it because
I've heard this.
You can't get too big.
I've heard this so many times, and I think in a way, I'm glad I was born in the year I was in, because the only way to win was to grow, and the only way to do that was to work. And there was no, and I'm not, again, this is not me being, you know, judgmental to nowadays, but there was no class that you could fall back into. If you weren't big enough, hard enough, or good enough, you were getting beat. So the only way you could win was to train harder and get there. And eventually, through the years, you conglomerated enough muscle, enough condition to win. And now I think people are looking at the class. What I used to say is you had to work to get into bodybuilding. Now you look at the class and go, where would I fit in? There was none of that back in the day. You fitted in on a stage beside big fuckers that were going to beat you. And you worked and worked and worked until you were beating them. Now people are going, I'll get into men's health because I don't want to get too big. I said to a boy one day, Owen, if God came down tomorrow and said to you, I'm going to give you 4 stone of muscle, what would you say? He goes, yes. And I said, so why are you saying to me last week, I don't want to get too big? You do want to get big. You're not prepared to do what it takes to get big. That's the problem. You know, every man wants to be big. I don't give a shit what any of them say. They all want to be big. They all want to be ripped. And they all, that's it. You look at the superheroes, you know, you look at any of them boys, that's what you aspire to be. You aspire to be big. You aspire to be ripped. That's what a man wants. No man looks and goes, I want to look like a men's physique model. Right? That's the trade-off, because they don't want to put the work in order to get big. They don't want to eat the amount of food. They don't want to get to the uncomfortable off-season. They think, I'll fit in men's physique where I stand a better chance so that I don't have to stand beside them big gorillas in the open, you know? And that's what it boils down to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what I found as well is, look, even if, like, condition wins shows, but even if you manage to put on enough muscle, and you have enough condition, you'll always manage to place reasonably well. And then when you bring that condition with the size, that's what wins the shows. But we're coming up on close to 2 hours, Mark. I don't want to keep you for much longer, but it was a great chat, man. It was a great chat. And is there anything you want to say to people? Like, where can people find you? What's the name of the gym, and all the little tags and stuff that you want people to hear about?
Just the gym's Elite Health and Fitness. I know, and see if you're ever up in the north, you come in here now and hit me up for a workout, and we'll get you around it, you know, when this all opens up, you know. And I think, you know, if you want to just check out the Instagram, it's just at Irish Hulk, and there's, you know, we're not as active on it at the minute, obviously, because we're not in the gym, but we'll definitely got a lot of material up there. And just for anybody that's starting off in bodybuilding that's listening, guys, listen, I've had a fantastic career. I've met a lot of fantastic people in bodybuilding. And, you know, for me, the discipline and everything else that you get in bodybuilding is second to none. And I would just say to anybody that's starting off, the main advice I would give them is to find somebody that's passionate, find somebody that's honest, and find somebody that's been there, done that, and is willing to help you out. Because there's too many idiots out there that are going to give you the wrong advice. And when you get the right person, stick with them, do what they say, start small and work your way up. Be consistent, you know, and just keep going. And the main motto is never give up, because I never started off as one of the best. I ended up one of the best through hard work, dedication, and years. And like I say, if you put the work in, you'll definitely get the work out. And again, just look after yourselves and don't be stupid is the other thing. You know, sometimes when it comes to certain elements of bodybuilding, less sometimes is more, and more isn't always better. So like I say, just be consistent, do the basics right, and most of all, enjoy it, because that's the main thing.
Deadly. Well, look, Mark, it was deadly having you on, and I'll definitely have to come up because I wanted to.
Thank you very much.
Because I was talking to Brian Ward. I was going to go up there anyway. I was going to stay up for a couple of days and just go to a few different games. Like that's what I tend to do in my free time anyway. But deadly. Look, I'll have this up I'll have the audio up tonight, and for anyone listening, again, the handles are there. I'll stick them in the description, and on to the next one. And that is us done.